Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Yes, it's the Skeptic Zone podcast, episode number 587 for the 12th of January, 2020. Richard Saunders coming to you once again from the San Francisco Bay Area. Coming up on this week's show, I head down the coast to Monterey, California, where I take part in the Monterey Skepticamp. And what a pleasure that was to participate in that event. I gave a talk, general skepticism, adventures of Australian skeptics, that sort of thing. I even bent a spoon. We hear from Susan Gerbic and also a new friend, Bud Miller. Following that, Susan comes back to report on an event that happened just a few days after, and I'd already left the area by then. The VAXXED Bus. The VAXXED Bus crept, because it's creepy, it crept into Monterey to try and persuade local parents not to vaccinate their children. As it turned out, it seems to be only the true believers came up to see the VAXXED Bus to reinforce their own beliefs. Susan Gerbic comes back once again to fill us in on this situation, and we have a couple of reports from local media. And it's quite interesting that when you hear some of the people interviewed in the reports that they seem to be regurgitating very basic conspiracy theory, anti-vaccination rhetoric that they've picked up online. And you'll be horrified to hear how one woman in particular wants to give her children deadly diseases. Then to round off the show, it's Maynard back at Skepticon 2019 with some highlights from the dinner, the annual Australian Skeptics dinner meeting where we hand out the awards. Well, you know who won the awards. We had those a couple of weeks ago. But tonight, Maynard chats to Dr. Vyom Sharma, who was one of the magicians on the night and the MC, who wowed everybody. An up-and-coming young magician by the name of Prue, which blew my socks off and the audience socks off. She had to collect all the socks afterwards. Brilliant young performer and someone who will certainly make a name for herself and is already doing so. And science teacher Sarah Webb, who has a special message for me. Well, that's enough for me at the moment. It's time for me to put on my running shoes and my exercise gear, run upstairs, go for a nice long walk along one of the nature trails here, which is just delightful. Come back, find some toast. While I do all that, I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone.
A couple of weeks ago on the show, of course, you heard about the great road trip that Maynard and I took from Sydney to Melbourne. Now I'm on another road trip in another part of the world. I'm zooming down a California highway. Well, I'm not doing the zooming. It's Susan Gerbic. Hello.
Hello, everyone.
And we're off to a meet and greet for Skepticamp in Monterey, which is tomorrow. What's it all about, Susan?
Well, it's a whole day of conference of great talks by mostly local people. We are in almost the center of California, and we attract people from as far away as Sacramento and Los Angeles, which is a long drive between those two places. People come together, a lot of local people, and we just have a whole day of conference.
And you also attract people from Sydney, Australia, I hasten to add.
Well, we are so happy to have you here.
I'm really looking forward to it. The sun is setting, folks. Look at that wonderful red color over there on our right as the sun is way down below the horizon, but the color it's making on the streaked clouds is quite something. Anyway, I'm looking forward to tonight's first event, which is the meet and greet. Well, Susan, I've been called many things in my life, many things. Most of them I can't repeat, but hot pick. We're looking at the local newspaper here, and there's my photograph.
You're the centerfold.
I'm the centerfold.
Yeah, it's a beautiful picture of you. It's the one I took in the New Zealand Skeptics Conference to put on your Wikipedia page. And somebody here at the conference walked over to a weekly newspaper here in town and opened it to the centerfold and said, "Hey, you're that guy that's right there." That was pretty funny. But we've done for our Skepticamp tomorrow. We have done a lot of local media outreach, and this one, I guess, hit. I didn't even know it was out yet.
It was amazing. Here I am having dinner, and someone walks over and says, "You're in the newspaper," and there I am.
And they didn't put your name next to it.
No.
But it says hot pick. Oh, no, wait. It's got an exclamation point. It says hot pick.
It should be a question mark, actually.
That's going to be really great. So this is some of the publicity. We're hoping to have some big numbers tomorrow. We've, in the past, I think we've hit in the mid-50s, 55 or so. Some people stay for the whole conference, some part of the thing. Our goal is always trying to hit 100. This will be our 6th event. But right now, I'm told we have 55 RSVPs, and we're probably going to end up, hopefully, in the 60s. So that'll be fun.
It's very exciting. I'm sitting next to Bud. Now, Bud, I'm sorry to spoil your dinner here, having to look at photographs of me in the newspaper.
Well, it's quite lovely to look at your picture. It's a good shot of you.
Well, Susan took it. It has to be a good shot.
Yes, it is. Yes, and I'm glad that you're in our town. Welcome to Monterey.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be in Monterey. I've been here a couple of times over the years to the aquarium, of course.
Yes. Yeah, but watch out. The octopus sometimes will get out.
Oh.
And you don't want him to catch you.
And for those of you who don't know, maybe not know, the Monterey Bay Aquarium is famous because it was used in a Star Trek movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
With the whales. And I'm sitting across, well, it's a long table here. There's lots of people. Huge. I mean, how many people we got here? 25. Excellent. We're all crowded into this wonderful pub down near the water here. And the London pub. That's right. That's right. I've had
It's called London Bridge.
And I had a clam chowder, which isn't very British, but it's very nice regardless. And it's just a wonderful social opportunity. And one of the reasons I love being in the skeptical movement. We have a chance to sit down, have a talk, and just have a lot of fun.
Yes, we do. And we get to figure out what's really real and what's not.
Yeah. Well, according to the newspaper, I might be real or I might not be real. I don't know.
You look just like your picture.
Thank you.
And I'm sitting next to you, so I think you're real. Wait a moment. Oh, I touched you. Oh, you are real.
What a beautiful day it is here in California. I'm at the Seaside Community Center, which is near Monterey, south of San Francisco, for the Monterey Skepticamp. It's what can I say? It's quite something to be standing here with the nice, crisp, cool weather and the still air and think about what's happening at this very moment as I record this, which is the 4th of January, what's happening back in Australia. And I'm trying to keep up with the news. ABC News 24 on YouTube is a vital information source for me, and it's horrifying. Nevertheless, here we are at the Skepticamp. I'll just walk in the door. People are running around, getting ready. Tables have been set. We've been setting up the PA system, and I see Susan Gerbic here starting to get to work already. Susan?
Yes, we're sorting papers now, the really important parts.
Oh, what are these papers?
These are papers on explaining our schedule for today and who the speakers are, plus what is skepticism and what is humanism. And then we have a paper for our first speaker today on moon resources. He's giving everybody a resource so that people can get more information. So we're just sorting them out. Really important stuff.
Yeah, excellent. And there's a table of food set up here, a table of magazines, a kitchen. It's quite a big room. And some old friends just walked into the door. And we spent a few hours this morning setting up tables and making sure everything was working. Hey. Good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah. I'm glad you could make it.
Yeah. I'm glad you could make it.
Thank you.
good, sir. How are you?
I'm well. Good to see you again.
Absolutely.
We're going to have some cocktails later?
I hope so. Wouldn't miss it.
Well, folks, I'm hiding back here at the back of the room during Skepticamp in Monterey. And Susan Gerbic is engaged in a talk now about cold reading, giving the audience a lesson in cold reading. The day so far has been excellent. Really interesting talks about moon landing hoax conspiracy. I gave a talk myself, which was a great pleasure. Mark Edward has given some mentalism demonstrations, and Susan has also been talking about grief vampires and Wikipedia. Some more talks to follow this afternoon, and I'm not sure what's happening afterwards. The crowd did get a big laugh when I demonstrated the premium wine card. And if you don't know about the premium wine card, that's worth Googling. Okay, now we pick up the action. Mark Edward is on centre stage, and it looks like he's going to do another mentalism routine about an elephant walking into the room.
And what a mentalist does. So, first off, I'm going to give you this black envelope. And I want you to put it in.
And Susan Gerbic has come up and is taking my photograph as we speak. So I don't know what's going to be happening next.
I conclude our meeting today. I'd like to thank Mark Edward. We're going to go down to the Chipotle after this, but we have to clean the room and put everything away, and I would appreciate your help. Thank you so much.
It's all over. Skepticamp is over. We're Chipotle Mexican Grill just around the corner. Here we go. Let's walk inside. Thank you. Oh, the gang's all here. Quite a lot of people from the day are here, waiting for a big table, I think. This is one of the great aspects about skepticism, isn't it, Susan Gerbic?
We just make it work.
Guerrilla Skepticism, Wikipedia, it's the socializing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's incredible how many people stay much later after. It's so much fun to see how people can want to stay and hang out and talk, even though they've got an hour or more drive ahead of them.
They do. And how would you rate today? You said to me just a minute ago you're still waiting for something to go wrong.
Yeah, I'm waiting for. I keep thinking, okay, what's going to go wrong? Something still has not happened, so we're kind of waiting, and it's possible.
See, all the skeptics at the table now are saying, "Don't jinx it, don't jinx it."
We're waiting, but it hasn't happened, so I don't know.
Did you enjoy the day?
I did. I definitely enjoyed the day.
You've been to. Is this your first time coming to one of the skeptic camps?
Skeptic camps, but I've been to Skeptical and TAM and several CSI.
How does this compare? I mean, it's a much smaller scale, but is it other than that about the same?
It's a little more intimate, is what I'd say. It's nice to be with a smaller group, especially TAM is so large that you don't really interact with anybody.
So. No, I agree. I do like these smaller ones. Well, I like them all, in fact.
I like them all, and I think that more groups should be doing these small events. It's not that hard, especially once you've done 2 or 3. And it's finding the venue is the hardest part. Once you've found the venue and you get a team of people who can kind of do these things and get media, really hound the media to get some kind of presence.
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
Yeah. So I'm happy because in about 6 weeks or so I'll be at Skepticamp in Victoria.
I want to say hello to all those people over there, and we really do feel for you with what's happening with the fires and so on, and your Prime Minister. We're very sorry.
You're sorry for our Prime Minister?
Yeah, we know what it's like to have representation like that. Ours is so much worse here. But I just want to say shout out to everybody in Oz and New Zealand. We all love you, and we think of you all the time.
Here's the sound effect coming up. Thank you, Susan. Mwah.
The Earth is only 6,000 years old. That's what Answers in Genesis and the Creation Museum say, and how can a museum be wrong?
Isn't Dr. Oz just wonderful? I loved today's episode. It didn't talk down to his adoring audience of women at all.
Science has proved that the subatomic quantum realm is as real as it is counterintuitive and bizarre. Therefore, I can use it to support quantum healing and quantum consciousness. After all, how can journals like Aquarius Metaphysics be wrong?
Evolution is just a theory. After all, if we came from monkeys, then why are there still monkeys?
We all have friends and family who believe these things and much more. Well, if you're a rational thinker who is tired of arguing on social media and never getting anywhere, we have a solution for you.
Join the Guerrilla Skepticism and Wikipedia team, and we will teach you how to add reliable scientific and skeptical information to the world's #1 source of information, Wikipedia.
We write new articles and improve existing ones. We remove pseudoscience, paranormal, and alt-med claims, substituting the actual facts. And we operate in many languages.
We've already reached tens of millions of people searching for information, but as you can imagine, we can never do enough.
So please join us. All you need is a PC and the desire to help educate the planet. In fact, you'll be educating the world while you sleep.
Contact us at gsowteam@gmail.com.
Guerrilla Skepticism. The time is now.
Music by PurplePlanet.com.
And joining me now from Salinas, California, which is a bit strange because I was just in Salinas, California at Susan Gerbic, who you would have heard on this episode already as we had the wonderful Skepticamp in Monterey. Hello, Susan.
Hey, Richard.
But now I'm way up the coast and you're still down there in Salinas. Now, I left the Monterey area a few days before the VAXXED Bus rolled into town. What can you tell me about that?
So we were really upset about it. I was personally, it was there on my turf. It felt really, made butterflies in my stomach kind of upset that they would have the VAXXED Bus on Fisherman's Wharf, very touristy, on a day or two right after a Skepticamp. It really bothered me.
And the news footage, which I've seen, and I'm going to play a report from the news in a moment, there it was. It was the big black VAXXED bus with VAXXED written down the side. And the idea is that parents who are of the opinion, for whatever reason, that their children have been vaccine damaged, come along and sign the bus.
Right.
And so you were observing all this. Right.
So we were, as I said, we were upset about having them here, and we didn't know quite what to do. Vaccines aren't necessarily my specialty, so we thought, well, maybe we should protest them, or maybe we should try to get them to shut down where they wouldn't be able to park at the Fisherman's Wharf. And then we thought maybe we should get a hold of the media and have the media show up. And so all these different things happened at once, and then we finally went through a moment where we talked about it, and we decided that counter-protesting them was a bad idea because these are very aggressive people. They're not going to listen to reason, and it would just stir them up more and get them all excited and circle the cognitive dissonance wagons and make themselves more convinced that they're being attacked. The other problem was when we contacted the media, one TV show wanted to go and film there, and they wanted to know if I would go on camera. And after I thought about it a bit, I said, well, giving them any media coverage whatsoever is exactly what they want. And even if they have, 20 seconds or 2 minutes on the TV, even if there's somebody like myself who has something to say, counter to them, it's still publicity and it's a win for them. It's as if they have equal weight in the media, and we didn't want to have that. So I called the the Monterey County Health Department and I asked them for advice, they said that the vaccination rates in Monterey County are some of the best in California, 97 point something for areas that are reported. So we knew it was really strong. And I contacted the wharf and asked them to not have them there. But people told me that they have, the right to protest. They have the right to be there, and that we want to also have that same right. So we couldn't have them moved on. So what the health department told me is that they have seen these same group of people come to their different vaccination clinics and things like that and protest them, and they just ignore them. They're very aggressive when challenged. They are a bit like the Westboro Baptists, if you know who they are. That's pretty aggressive. That's my words,
sure, yes.
Not the health departments. But they said that these people are not listening to any kind of reason whatsoever. They believe what they believe, and that's it. So I had contacted the media, the TV station, and asked them not to interview them because we were afraid that it would give more publicity, and that only to contact the health department and, maybe say that there was this bus in town and that kind of thing. So I went and I showed up and sat in the parking lot and watched them. Now, they were unable to get a parking space at the Fisherman's Wharf where they would be very close to where the tourists were. And they ended up in a parking lot at Fisherman's Wharf on a Thursday afternoon, very far from tourists. So the only people who would have gone to them are people who went there to see them. So they weren't handing out any information. They weren't talking or interacting with any tourists, or residents or anything of that sort. Only the people who are already in the anti-vax camp. So I kind of said, all right, let's just let them have their day, do their thing. Let's not counter protest them. Let's not hand out any information. Let's not try to accost them. We don't want to give them any more reason to want to come to Monterey County. And so there's a lot of moms, a lot of children, and they hung around for about an hour. And then the media came up, did an interview with them. And then after the media came, most everybody left. It was just the van parked there overnight. But, as the media left, I went over to where they were, which was a long way away from them because I didn't want to talk to the media in front of the anti-vax people. And I talked to them and I said, look, if you give them coverage, this is going to be on the media and they're going to get exactly what they want. And the reporter I talked to said she totally understood. She said that she talked to these people and they were not looking for more information. They thought they were 100%, knew what they knew. And so she says they're not even sure if they're going to run the coverage because they felt uncomfortable with it. And they had contacted the health department. And it looks like they did run something, a couple minutes.
Yeah. You know what? There was some media reports, and you've kindly brought these to my attention. Now, folks, I'm going to read a story as covered on KION News, and this includes some sound bites. And this story comes from the website of KION546.com. Monterey County, by Megan Meyer, published on January the 9th, 2020. Parents protest vaccinations in Monterey. Monterey, California, KION. Karina Powers signed her daughter's name to the side of a large bus in Monterey Thursday. It's now one of the hundreds of signatures made by parents who said their child has been injured or died as a result of vaccine.
You don't want your child's name on that bus. You don't want your child to have an injury. You don't want to have a death in your family from a vaccine injury,
said Powers. The signature is something Powers said she was willing to do in order to spread the word about what she calls, the dark side of vaccines. Powers said her daughter was a perfectly healthy baby until receiving a hepatitis B shot.
She wasn't waking up. She was very lethargic. Her eyes were rolling back, and that's when I called my pediatrician, and I had to run to the emergency room. And once in the emergency room, she was there in the NICU for 7 days, said
Powers. That would be the last vaccine Powers said her daughter would ever receive. Other parents have also taken the pledge not to vaccinate their children.
They're full of toxins and they're untested, and we're unwilling to have our children as the guinea pigs for these experiments,
said parent Agatha Kenner. As of last year, California law mandates that children, grades K to 12, be vaccinated. What is known as the VAXXED Bus and the families behind it want to see that law changed.
I'm a lawyer, my husband's a nurse, and if these mandates don't go away, we're leaving the state,
said Kenner. The Monterey County Health Department said no evidence links vaccinations to injury or death. Assistant Director of Public Health, Kirsty Mishi, says there is evidence to show that vaccines are the best way doctors can prevent diseases in children and adults.
They're very effective at preventing severe outcomes from some of the illnesses like measles, flu, and mumps and other vaccine-preventable diseases,
said Mishi. So that was sadly not very critical, Susan. There was a bit at the end, thank goodness, with a bit of reason. But I want to draw your attention to one of the people involved in that story, Agatha Kenner, who was quoted in the story. I've also found, courtesy of you, another news report, another series of interviews that were there at the time. Now, let me run this brief clip of Agatha Kenner once again.
I hope that they get the wild measles. I hope they get the wild chickenpox. I hope they get every wild disease there's out there.
So, Susan, this is a woman who is using this weird term, which I don't think I've heard before, calling something like wild measles and wild other diseases, and she hopes her children get them. Now, one can only imagine that she either does not watch the news and doesn't know what's happening in Samoa, or has seen it but just doesn't believe it.
It's just amazing, absolutely amazing that she would endanger her children in that way, thinking, I mean, these people really do believe that they're helping their children out. I mean, yeah. I had measles and my siblings had measles and we lived to tell the tale. But what we don't hear from are those people who did not live to tell the tale, who had the measles. It's just cruel. It's cruel to your children to do something of this sort.
It certainly is, but listening to those reports again and hearing what those women are saying in this situation, it certainly sounds that they've been indoctrinated by the classic conspiracy theory anti-vax messages.
Right. The conspiracy is all in their head. So when I talked to the Monterey County Health Department, when I said, what should I do? What should we do? And she said that what their policy is to pretty much ignore these people and then do the best job they can to get people in Monterey County vaccinated and to get good information out to the public. Because as she said, we will not change these particular people's minds. So that really made me kind of really focus on the things that we're doing with GSOW, the Wikipedia project that I run, because we do concentrate on vaccines. And we've written, I think, 30-something pages concerning just vaccinations, including the Samoan outbreak and different people involved with that. So we can get some really great information out there to people who are on the fence or people who really haven't heard the anti-vax argument yet. And I think that's where we need to concentrate as skeptics, is to refuting their arguments when we see them online. And I'm not talking about the anti-vaxxers arguments, those people who are already, bought the book and drank the Kool-Aid or Flavor Aid, but the people who are still kind of like, I'm pregnant and I'm hearing from mommy groups that maybe I shouldn't vaccinate. I'm really not sure what to do. So those people who are just now learning about it. So don't waste your time with the people who are already for sure, anti-vax and will not change their mind. Let's work on those people who have not even heard the argument yet or are just starting to challenge the idea and starting to do Google searches. And that's where we should concentrate our efforts.
Absolutely. Now, folks, I will link to the 2 news reports that we've been quoted in this week's show notes. Susan, thank you very much for getting out there, being active, and keeping an eye on the situation for the rest of us.
Thank you, Richard.
Oregonians for Science and Reason Portland present Strange Energies and Even Stranger Devices. An Evening with Richard Saunders. Monday, the 20th of January, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Alberta Street Pub, which is at 1036 Northeast Alberta Street, Portland, Oregon. Grab a beer or dinner and join fellow scientific skeptics for an evening with Richard Saunders. Doors open at 5 p.m. Can mysterious New Age energies make your car run better, rid your house of rising damp, diagnose your illnesses, improve your performance on the sporting field, and even make your wine taste better? Saunders looks at claims being made in the name of energies unknown to science. Now I have to read this bit because, it's in the blurb. About Richard Saunders. International expert on scientific skepticism, Richard Saunders from Sydney, Australia, is the host of the weekly podcast, The Skeptic Zone, now in its 12th year. He is a documentary filmmaker and one of the stars of the top-rated Australian paranormal TV show, The One, the search for Australia's most gifted psychic. I wonder if that'll ever come back. He's an origami expert and invented Origami Pegasus for James Randi. He is a life member of Australian Skeptics Inc., a Centre for Skeptical Inquiry CSI Fellow, and was part of the James Randi Educational Foundation's $1 million prize committee. That's Strange Energies and Even Stranger Devices. An evening with me, Monday the 20th of January, Portland, Oregon, at the Alberta Street Pub. And I will add a link in this week's show notes.
Here's Maynard's spooky action at a distance.
Well, we're here at the big dinner for Skepticon 2019. I'm turned up in the tie shot silk suit, which is rocking the place, really. Just think of me as looking like a guy from The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Either one, doesn't matter. Napoleon Solo, Iria Kiliakin, either one's fine. Oh. And Richard, now what normally happens at these things?
Socialising, meeting and greeting, talking about skeptical issues, having a good dinner and an auction.
Right. So are you auctioning off, and what's it for money for? Skeptics or what?
Oh, absolutely. It's to help the skeptical cause, and I'm the auctioneer tonight, yes.
Now, there's normally some sort of hoo-ha goes on, the Bent Spoon Awards given, and people go, oh, it should have gone to this person, that sort of thing goes on?
Every year.
Now, who's giving the Bent Spoon Award this night?
Joe Benamu.
Oh, wow. Well, I'll make sure I have a chat to her fairly shortly. Let's get in here and mingle. Where's the bar?
Hey, brother.
Look, and I know you're all looking around. You're all wanting to know. We're doing a bit of a neckbeard count here at the dinner. And look, only one or two neckbeards have turned up. The people are running past us. People are pointing at the suit, which is what you want, really, isn't it, Richard?
It is.
Okay. Hang on, already we're getting critique. We're having evidence-based critique of my suit. Who we got here?
I love your suit. That's what I came up to say.
It can be an evidence-based compliment, but you said you've got one like it.
I had one like it, but it was green and brown. It was the 80s.
Yes.
And I've long since got rid of it. But on you, it looks good.
You said you got the... So you say it was a North Vietnamese suit you had?
Yes. But it was from a store called Thai Silk.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, there you go. It's shot Thai Silk. Actually, look, this. I bought a tie with this material, and I rang the tie company, and I said, where can I get that? And so it's actually made out of tie material, which is why it doesn't sit that well. Just out of interest, my two favourite GPs in Australia are here tonight. That's Dr. Brad Mackay and my favourite Melbourne practitioners here as well. And he's doing some hosting. I'm excited. It's not often you get the two best GPs in Australia in the same room. Look, as I said, my two favourite GPs are here tonight in Australia. This is one of them now. Who have we got?
Oh, thank God. You mentioned me, Dr. Vyom Sharma.
Well, because there's you and there's Dr. Brad. They're only GPs I want to talk to. In fact, I'd rather go to you guys than specialists.
That's a compliment.
Oh, it should be indeed. How's things going? Are you very nervous about... Have you been taking some beta blockers before you go on stage here tonight?
Totally overloaded. My heart rate's about 20, so as long as there's no big steps to get up onto stage, I should be fine.
Have you done this kind of stuff before? Like, you've obviously done skeptical hosting before.
Hosting actually not. So I've had about a good 14 hours notice before doing this, but it's good. It's my crowd. The people are lovely. It should go well.
Hey, how you doing?
I thought it was great that by day you're a GP and by night you were Batman. I thought you were going to say Batman.
I wish. Don't have the bank account or the physique.
Because look, a 16-year-old magician, she was great. She's good.
She kicked butt. I've been such a fan of her. Do you know what? I'm going to take you back to at least a couple of years ago when we met at Skepticon, and you asked me, why don't we see more female magicians? And I told you, actually, Melbourne, we're doing a good job at training up younger female magicians, and I mentioned Prue by name. And this is Prue. And she is striking fear into the hearts of all magicians, young and old and whatever gender.
Because she's punching above her weight there. She's doing marriage jokes and key jokes and stuff that a 16-year-old...
It's material beyond her years. And also, we look at her, it makes us go, geez, we can't be slack. There's no room for complacency. Everyone get better. All ships rise as the tide does, so yeah.
Look, can I have a chat to her?
You absolutely should.
I'll just wait till she's finished doing her thing, but yes. She did call me a pervert, but I think that's a good part of the act. You should at least call a few people in the audience. You should try that one.
I don't think it worked for me, no. No one's checking me out, believe me.
Hello. Oh yeah, Prue, my name's Maynard. I'm doing this for the Skeptic Zone, which is Richard's show that you had on stage.
Awesome.
Now, how long have you been doing magic for?
I've been doing magic for about 3 years. I've always done it all my life, but seriously for 3 years.
And why did you pick it up? Did you have an uncle or an aunt or a mum who was doing it and you went, hang on a minute?
I didn't have a magician family member. However, my dad always did the classic thumb disappearing act, even though he wasn't a magician. He's a lawyer.
So that works on people, hey?
Exactly, and I think I took that trick a bit too far and thought I'd be doing that, and now I'm here.
Well, the thing that got me is you were doing jokes and a presentation beyond your age. That's great, you know?
Thank you so much. I'm glad
you're
you
doing marriage jokes, you've given my key kind of things, and it's quite funny. You said you won a contest overall where there was a whole range of people.
Yeah.
What sort of ages were the people you were competing against here in Melbourne?
Well, in Melbourne, there was a junior competition, which was between ages 0 to 18, and then the one I won that was all ages was in New Zealand, and that was a parlour competition at the New Zealand Magic Convention, and there was a junior competition I was entered in, but no other juniors entered, so I was the only person, so I won that by default. But when the judges noticed their score sheets, they noticed that the adult parlour competition competitors actually had a lower score than me, so then I actually ended up winning the overall parlour competition, so it's quite a funny story.
Well, congratulations, yeah, and look, you're firing on all, and I like the little flourish of the confetti and that sort of thing. That's a touch of Tommy Cooper, but who is your favourite magicians? I'm a Penn and Teller fan because they show the trick and you're no wiser, even if they show you the trick. Who are your favourites?
Oh, that is a good question. I have so many favourites. I can't choose one exactly, but I do love Penn and Teller, and there are a lot of magicians that aren't quite famous but really well known in the magic community that are quite inspirational to me. To name one is Carissa Hendricks, and she's one of my favourite magicians.
I have heard the name.
Yeah.
And what about from the past? Are there any old school ones? Is it Doug Hennings or people like that, or maybe the Amazing Randy, people like that? Was an escapologist. Any older ones that you look to?
Yeah, there's Houdini. Obviously, was a big inspiration. Yeah. He obviously was such a great influence in the magic community, and so he was definitely one of the big inspirations. I can't think of the name of this person, but she was a lady who was one of the first female magicians, and her acts were incredible. Did it start
with a Z? Her name start with a Z at all?
Maybe. I can't quite remember, but
yes, because I was actually wondering where the women were in magic, because you don't see them all that often. You might see them on English television or the US. I guess you like that Penn and Teller show where the magicians go on and compete.
Yes, definitely. It's great to see different women go on that show and different women not on that show too. Just women I feel are emerging in magic, which is such an exciting time, and I'm so glad to be part of that movement.
Oh, look, it's so exciting to have someone so together at your age. Now, eventually, Penn and Teller and many magicians have the bullet catch as their big trick. Yeah. Have you got any idea what kind of trick you might like to do down the line as a show closer where people go, wow, that Prue. Woo. Any idea what you'd like to do? An escapology thing, a bullet catch kind of thing, a card conundrum? What do you think?
Well, that's a great question. I'm not entirely sure, but definitely something to do with comedy, as you could see in my routine. Yes. Comedy is a big part. So, yeah, I guess anything that really makes the audience laugh whilst captures their attention is definitely something I'd be interested in developing.
And, of course, misdirection is a big thing in magic, and if you're doing comedy stuff, that gives you an extra edge with the misdirection, does it?
Exactly, yes. If comedy takes them away from some of the secret things I'm doing, that's definitely helpful, and also it gives the audience members a good time, which is what I'm all about.
Now, as a female magician, does that give you an advantage in any way? Like you can have clothing that's got stuff hidden away that a male magician can't have? Is there any particular advantage to being a female magician?
I think one of the main advantages is it makes me really unique. So a lot of people say, I don't usually see female magicians, so that makes me stand down the crowd, and especially being young too, that's another thing. So a young female magician, I definitely think that is a quality that makes me unique.
Look, I think you're great tonight. Is there anywhere online you're doing stuff yet? You got a blog going or anything like that yet?
I don't have a blog, but I do have a YouTube channel where I post some of my performances. My Instagram page is my main social media, so you can find me at Prue Spencer Magician on Instagram.
Wow. And how often do you get a booking, by the way?
Oh, a lot of the time. I'm very, very lucky. There's a great magic community in Melbourne, so that is such a good outlet for me to go, and they give me a lot of opportunities to perform, so I'm very grateful for the Australian Institute of Magic. That's where a lot of the gigs come from, so they're amazing.
Well, remember where you heard it first, people, because I don't think it'll be the last time we're going to hear from you. Lovely to meet you, Prue.
Lovely to meet you too. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Richard, you were actually the magician's assistant there on stage for a while for Prue, and you looked a bit nervous for a while.
Well, it's a bit...
Because you know how this kind of stuff's done, so...
Well, yes, but what she did, I had no idea. She was brilliant, really great. And she had the crowd in the palm of her hand. She was great.
Look, and a lot of magicians turn out to be skeptics too, don't they?
Yes, James Randi, to name but one, and Banachek and so on. No, and she was terrific. She's good-humoured. She had me... She really did, yeah.
I'm going to record a conversation. So we all know that the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe changes people's lives. And Richard, I want you to hear this particular story about how you've changed someone's life in a really positive direction. So I'm putting you both on the spot. So I just want you to tell what you told me.
And who have we got here too?
So we've got Sarah Webb, who's one of our Gold Coast Skeptics members, and I just found this story really quite nice, and I think Richard would like to hear it.
Well, I started listening to a lot of podcasts, and I studied to be biotechnology, and then I was looking into cytogenetics and got quite bored. So I emailed out a few people, and Richard was one of the people I emailed asking about what I wanted to do, and I was kind of tossing between being a teacher or going into science education, and you pointed me to become a teacher. So now I'm a science and math teacher in high school.
How about that, Richard?
There's no words. That's fantastic. Wow.
So you didn't say become a cabaret performer? That wasn't on there?
Well, I gave him two options. Do I go master's science education or do I become high school? And you're like, having an insight into education is the best way to go. So that's where I went.
I'm just thrilled to hear that. Thank you. Wow.
And congratulations, Stu. Did you manage to get a high distinction?
Oh, it was pretty good. Yeah. I'm 5 years into it. So.
Yay. Wow, how about that, Jack? No, sure, you've got some, old podcasts, but people don't ask you for career advice, or do they?
They shouldn't.
That was great, right?
Thank you. That
was really nice.
Thank you, Richard. Was I any good as a magician's assistant?
Oh, yeah, you were the perfect magician's assistant, Maynard.
I was going okay until he wanted me to punch buttons. I thought I'd better get my glasses on to make sure I don't miss one.
You didn't miss, and that's the thing, and the payoff was brilliant, absolutely. The gasps of the audience, when they realised what he'd done, everyone around me was going, no, and applauded. It was amazing.
Yes, I was just talking to him about being a doctor, a GP, having a medical background, and what it's like to feel like on stage. And I suggested he should do an EKG or maybe do a blood sample before he performs and after he performs and see if there's anything different there.
Ooh.
I mean, at the very least, you'd be able to measure some sort of level of adrenaline.
Yeah, and right now I'm going to measure my blood sugar because look at this, Maynard's sticky date pudding.
Ooh, so we'll chat later, Richard.
Allora ciao, io mi chiamo Professore Dave, io ti voglio insegnare tutte le cose sulla scienza. Parliamo di fisica, di chimica, biologia, astronomia, matematica e tante altre cose. Guardami su YouTube, arrivederci. Hey everyone, this is Professor Dave. I want to teach you about all kinds of things regarding science. I want to tell you about physics. I want to tell you about chemistry, biology, astronomy, math, and many, many more things. Come check me out on YouTube. The channel is called Professor Dave Explains. Take it easy.
He knows a lot about the science stuff. Professor Dave Explains.
Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone. Now, a couple of announcements from me. It's come to my attention that there is a social barbecue coming up for the Canberra Skeptics. And this will be happening on January the 19th at midday. Canberra Skeptics is excited to look forward to 2020, and we can't wait to bring you some great events this year. We'll be starting, as always, with our annual barbecue. Canberra Skeptics invites you to come and enjoy a barbecue and games with your fellow skeptics. There are picnic tables available, but feel free to bring camp chairs or blankets. This is a barbecue event, so don't forget sausages and drinks. And that will be at the barbecues outside Questacon. And there is a note here, too, to make sure that if you're going along, to check out the social media in case of the smoke or the fire situation resulting in an alteration to those plans. But anyway, if you're in Canberra, you might want to check that out. Links in this week's show notes. Also, if there's a big gap on your wall and you need to fill it with a calendar, go to Maynard.com.au and download the 2020 Maynard calendar. Spend each month with Maynard. But for this week, this is Richard Saunders signing off from the San Francisco Bay Area.
You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Please visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for show notes, contacts, and to access the back catalogue of episodes going back to 2008. You can follow the Skeptic Zone podcast on Twitter at Skeptic Zone, visit our Facebook page, or leave a review on iTunes. You can also support the Skeptic Zone via Patreon or PayPal. The Skeptic Zone podcast is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed on the Skeptic Zone are not necessarily those of Australian skeptics or any other skeptical organisation.
Hello, the Afterthoughts people, the people who listen after the music. Let's see now. Make some space here. It's the dice game, for those of you who don't know what this is all about. At the end of the show, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes I roll a 10-sided die, whatever you want to call it. Language is flexible after all. And you get to use your predicting power or your powers of dumb luck to see if you can guess the number that comes up 3 times. Are you ready? I'm going to roll it once. Well, the first time, here we go. The first number that come up today is 1. Seems appropriate, really. Okay, here we go again. Next number, are you guessing? Fell off the table. Why does it always do that? This is ridiculous. I must use a different table. Stop. Oh, number 1 again. How about that? 1 and 1. There's a song about that somewhere. Okay, last time. Here we go. I don't believe it. It's 5. This week's numbers 1, 1, and 5.